What's up YouTube? Welcome to this new time-lapse of EU4 in 1.218.3, the Golden Century patch. Poland run here for you guys. This is a chill one. Basically some people wanted me to always play Poland, so we went at it. This is a tall run even though we're big like this. I explained a few times in the stream that I have multiple tiers in my mind between tall and wide. This is basically a tier 1 tall, meaning you play the normal way, doesn't really affect your playstyle, but it's in terms of the idea groups you're taking, especially the early game ones. And it's going to change, we'll go through it in a minute. I just explained though, we didn't exactly go super huge in terms of states and all that. We are at still 16 territories only. So we could have been bigger than this without even hitting corruption. The thing is I wanted to try and focus for the most part on the missions. So to go through them really quickly, and then we'll go to the time lapse. So on this side is the Prussia part, and down to the Ottomans and Sweden. So this is basically, first you have the Teutonic Order with Danzig. Not going to go through it, but it's a series of events that affects the Teutonic Order that gives you basically Danzig as a subject. So this is the start, then this is retaking all of Prussia, and then this is all the this is the Teutonic Order gone. And then you go here, you need to build a fleet here, develop Danzig in a few ways, and then it leads into, this is claims on this part of Sweden. And Revenge of Varna is basically to kick out the Ottomans out of the Balkans. You don't need to own all of this. Well, Bulgaria you do, and Thrace you do, but the rest, it can be anyone else. They never went to Hungary, so that part was pretty easy in our case here. And here you don't need Finland for the missions. You don't need Vyborg either. But we'll go through it, but we have a mission also to push out the Russians, and by the time we did that, then we had the state, so I wanted Vyborg, and then I might as well take the Finland state, just to connect to my Swedish stuff. And this led to us eventually getting the global trade. If I look at the right thing, institutions, triggered the global trade in Danzig, which is the Baltic Sea. Once we had Sweden and rebuilt the centers of trade a bit, basically the Baltic Sea is the largest node in the world. So yeah, that's pretty good. You push Krakow up. Baltic Sea is the next step would be Lubeck, which is much harder to get than the Baltic Sea. And basically, since you're in Krakow can go up. Then you pull off Kiev as well. You control most of Novgorod here, so Novgorod can pull here. That's a lot of money to push up into the Baltic Sea. So that's the left part of the mission 3. The center one is personal unions. So first of all, well, you annex Mazovia, which you start with as a vassal. Then this is to form the Commonwealth at Tech 10, assuming you took Lithuania. Once you do that, you will get a personal union CB on Hungary. In our case, we didn't, because if Hungary is a subject or doesn't exist anymore by the time you get the mission, that's the same thing with any mission that gives personal union, by the way. If the target of the personal union is either already a subject of someone or the nation doesn't exist at all anymore, what you do is you get permanent claims on their states instead. It's less effective because the personal union is one-shot everything. This, you have to conquer and core and all that, but you still get something. It gives you the permanent claims on the stuff you need for the next thing. So as you might know, Hungary is also Transylvania technically. So if you have the personal union, you also have this, Croatia as well. But in our case here, it's only the claims on the core provinces, on the core states of Hungary, so Slovakia, Transdanubia, and Elfold, which leads into that. Once you have that, you will get a permanent claim on the state of Silesia, which is usually held by Bohemia. And once you have Silesia, then it's a personal union in Bohemia. This part is a bit annoying because you're taking stuff from Bohemia, pissing them off, and then they want you to personal union them. But yeah, so it leads to that, and then this is basically the end. There's nothing left after that. That's why we have a personal union in Bohemia. And then the right side, it's not exactly connected. Break the Rus means to, in the Russian region, super region, there needs to be no nation that is of the East Slavic culture group. These guys. that has its capital in that region. So while even Muscovy still exists, I kicked them out of the Russian state region, so now they are in the Ural. This is in the Ural, so they don't count anymore. And then they had killed Novgorod and annexed all their vassals, so they were the only one when we did that. So this is pretty big. It gives you the manpower roughly back that you had to fight them, and yeah, the mission itself is interesting, but it doesn't lead anywhere. And these are basically development missions. So first, you need Stab 2 and have the Renaissance. This one's pretty easy. It gives you Copernicus. Doesn't show here, but Copernicus is a 75% discount tier 3. I think he's a production guy. I'm not sure, I don't remember 100%. But it's pretty huge. It's like 70% discount tier 3 advisor. It's pretty big. Which leads after that into the development of Krakow. So Krakow needs to be 20 dev. It's the old capital really, so 20 dev, and then have a workshop and a temple. Or the upgraded versions. And then upgraded center of trade to tier 3. And then it leads to that, and this we didn't do. And this leads into the Elective monarchy. As you can see, we still have the Elective monarchy. And for those who played Poland a few times or understand the mechanics, will understand that at that time you shouldn't have the Elective monarchy anymore. So first, you get the Elective monarchy when you take the PU. So as Poland, you'll get an event after a few months to get the personal union on the 2-1 or take a super powerful local noble. We decided to get the personal union because you need that to form a Commonwealth anyways. When you do that, you turn into an Elective monarchy. I'm not going to explain the mechanic in itself, but basically you always have an heir. You're always guaranteed to have an heir of age, so that's a good thing. You never have a regency council. You never have a wife because you never need one. The downside is you never control your next heir. So every nation that is Christian can send a diplomat to support their heir on you. I don't know if the option is there for us, since, well, it's here generally. It's not there for us because we are the Elective monarchy. Every other nation can send a diplomat to support, and if they win the election, then they get some monarch points based on the stats of the winner, and they can get a personal union CB on Poland, although that's just random. What you can do is you always have your local dynasty, like the 566 is local right now, and if the other ones win, so the percentage in parentheses is the chance every month to get a point. It doesn't work for us, but other nations, that's how it works. So they have a diplomat supporting. If they have a diplomat supporting, they have a percentage chance every month to get a point. The percentages is based on their relation with us and their diplo rep. And when the ruler dies, then whoever has the most point is the heir that takes over. So if, by example, Great Britain here, or most likely Brittany, because Brittany has more chances, eventually, if we'd run the game, eventually Brittany would take over. Now, the points that we have, the 10 points that we have, this is base. You always start with 10 points, and then the rest is you need to spend prestige to get 5 more. So if you want your guy to win, you need to spend a lot of prestige. Generally speaking, you don't do that unless your dude is super strong and the guy that, like, by example, if Great Britain was to win, I'd probably spend the prestige to not have a 1-2-3 and have a 5-6-6 instead. If Brittany wins, it's not a big deal. It's a 5-5-4. It's not worth the prestige. You get the idea. And the thing is, while you have the Elective monarchy, if you ever have a ruler that has less than 2 admins, so 1 or 2, you'll get a modifier, which is called the Pacta Conventa, which gives you, like, it's a bad modifier. It gives you 50% increased war score exhaustion reduction and stability cost. I don't remember the other modifier. Anyway, we don't have it. That's the point I'm getting to. We don't have it because we never had a ruler that had less than 2 admin. Promise you don't have if you don't have that flag, if you don't have that modifier, the Pacta Conventa, you will have the Elective monarchy forever. Because how you move out of the Elective monarchy is when the absolutism age starts, you get a meantime to happen event that is pretty short. It's like 10 years. And it's cut in half if you have the privilegia, like the Nieshwa privileges. So it's pretty quick, but it doesn't happen if you don't have the Pacta Conventa. When that event happens, you get 2 choices, either to become a republic or to fight rebels. If you choose the option to fight rebels, once all the rebels are gone, there's a meantime to happen event of another 10 years. It's roughly working like a disaster, but it's not an actual disaster. You'll get plus 10 national honors across the board, and the goal is to have 1 stab and no rebels left, which is pretty much how most disasters work. Once you do that, there's an event that might happen within 10 years. Eventually, when it happens, it ends the struggle. It's called the royal struggle for power. It ends the struggle, and then you become a normal monarchy. The point of becoming a normal monarchy is because the elective monarchy gives you minus 30 absolutism, so by this time you'd probably want to get rid of it. But you don't exactly have 100% control over that. Because, yeah, you need to finish this mission. This is unrelated, really, but this is to explain why I don't have this mission. You need to have 50 absolutism, but also not be elective monarchy. You can't get out of it if you don't have the royal struggle for power, if you don't have the royal, and you can't, and you can only have the royal struggle for power if you have the Pacta Conventa modifier, and that it requires you to have a 1 or 2 or 0 admin ruler. And because of this nature of elective monarchy, you can't exactly control that. So, like, could work here if we had Great Britain winning, but I'm not going to finish the run, so yeah. So once you finish this, you get a bunch of points. Autonomy change down it helps build up your absolutism, but you need 50 already to get this, so whatever. And then it leads into these missions. I still did these missions. I can't finish it because I don't have this one, but I still did what we need to do. So basically, I've done everything in the mission tree with the exception of this, which I can't control. But if we did this one, these two would be finished. And these is basically to upgrade Eastern Poland and Ruthenia. So this requires you in those 2 states that are highlighted right now, which is West and East Dipnir. You need at least 5 provinces that are 10 development, and then Krijo, which is one of them, and it counts towards the 5. This one needs to be 20. So yeah, this is a development mission. It gives you, it's not exactly relevant. It's until the end of the game, 5% development cost reduction. It's pretty neat, but you already need to develop them, so it's kind of counter the point, whatever, because developing increased the cost anyways. But yeah, anyway, it's interesting. Then invest in Eastern Poland. It's mainly low. Lublin and Low, those 2 provinces, needs to be 20 and have their manufactory build and have their center of trade to level 3. Well, okay, Dublin needs to be level 3. Low, I'm pretty sure I pronounced that wrong, but Low needs to be level 2. And then it gives you 20 years of local trade power and local goods produced in those 2 provinces. This one is kind of irrelevant, really. I don't like those temporary bonuses, but whatever, I just do it. I'm just doing it for the missions. Then that's pretty much it. The rest, these 2 are the basic ones. So build to force limit, get to 50 development from the start, gets 5 new states, have an army of 80, unite the whole home region. Home region of Poland counts Silesia for the record. And then on the other side you have high income, which is just a percentage increase from your starting income. Build buildings, which is 5 churches and 5 workshops. Save 2,000 ducats, build 20 factories, and then have at least 1,000 development. So, just an overview of how we ended. It's 1659. You can basically make a pretty good comparison to the English run. Roughly the same force limit, probably not the same income. We are at 2442 if you count Bohemia as full. It's more like 2700, so it's a bit more development than the English run. Development map mode would look like this. Now all the yellows are around 20. These are ones we developed. Green plus is 30. We don't have a 40, but this one's pretty close. It doesn't look so tall, but consider we have this with Constantinople, and then Bulgaria was developed a lot too. There's that. Everything has been converted. There's a few left. Not the most, but has been converted. What else? Income and force limit. So military-wise, we are bigger than Ming. Now we don't even have quantity in this run. We'll get through the ideas. Usually you take quantity for a tall run. I'll explain why we didn't. And in terms of income, 492. It's pretty respectable. Well, 480 if I don't count the war reps. It's pretty respectable, but the English run at that point with France, roughly the same development, would have like 600. Now, granted, this is the English channel, we're not in an node, so it doesn't help, but like considering this factor, it's pretty big money. Now, there's the second age that helps Poland, we'll get through that in a minute. So I'll go to the time-lapse and explain why we do that, why we took quality. So again, for those who are watching for the first time the time-lapse, don't pay attention to the colors to see the progress. The borders are the current borders, the end borders, but look at the colors. So we start as Poland with Mazovia as a subject. Moldavia is guaranteed. Eventually they get a mission, an event pretty early to decide who they are going to bend over to. You get an event to support them. If you don't, you're not going to get it. So we supported them with manpower, and then we got Moldavia. I'll be honest, we restarted a few times because I hate that thing as Poland. So like, because Hungary can get it too, which is bullshit. We get Cake Lithuania, as you'll see. The first thing we'll do really is get this Danzig. This you just need this. So this first step is an event that happens to the Teutonic Order that releases Danzig. That's not event, that it's released. If you play the Teutonic Order, by the way, for it to happen, it happens if your burghers have more than 50 influence, and then still have provinces in this area. So if you don't want it to happen, you need to remove their land here until they have less than 50 influence. But as it happens, then Zig gets released. That's not by event, it just happens. And then there's an event that happens to the Teutonic Order that they can decide to either like pay stability or whatever to stay at peace, or they end up like by event, they end up attacking Danzig. If they do that, then Danzig is going to ask support from Poland. And you, as Poland, you receive an event if you want to help them or not. If you decide to help them, you become allies and guarantee them. And then you get called into war because it's defensive for them. And if you win, which you should, because since it's offensive for him, he ends up being alone against all of you. So you should win easy. If you win, once the war is over, you get another event to make them a vassal. They become a vassal, and they also give you this for free. It also ends up being court for free, because it's in your state. So the plan here, when you fight this, for the record, is to transfer everything to them, because since they are only allies during the war, everything they take, they get the aggressive expansion, because they're not the subject yet, and then you vassalize them right after the war. So you're basically expanding free of aggressive expansion. You want to focus on this, because the West Prussia mission is to get this as a subject or you, so you're going to finish your mission here, but you want all of this eventually anyways. So this is the first thing here. They took all of this, then we annexed Mazovia. We're going to feed Livonian Order to Lithuania eventually. We're also going to vassalize Ryazan. It's a pretty important thing to do. For all those that plays in the East Europe, especially if you have Third Rome, you don't want Russia to form, because Russia enables them to get the Siberian frontier, which is a lot more land that can be ignored. Otherwise, they are the only ones really that go there. To form Russia, they need Moskva, which is their capital, which they always will have. They need Novgorod, which most likely they will get, but they also need an either here, which is Nizhny Novgorod, and another one, but they usually get both, whatever. It's pretty hard to stop that. The one thing you can stop is they either need Smolensk or Ryazan. Smolensk you have because it's Lithuanian, so you need to get to Ryazan. So what we did is we vassalized them. Ryazan will be our vassal pretty fast. So by having those two, then Muscovy cannot form Russia, which prevents the Russian order. Also, it gives them less force limit, so it's easier to manage. Also, as Muscovy is stuck as a duchy. They can't increase their kingdom. The way Muscovy work is forming Russia makes them an empire. As long as they can't form Russia, they are stuck as a duchy forever, which is a difference of 10 states, actually 15 because of Tsardom. So it's a huge nerf for them, then no Siberian frontiers. Like, they are much easier to manage like this. So we didn't go exactly east, really. At the start I didn't want it because it's impossible to convert, and then eventually I just figured it wasn't part of the plans I had. So from here on we're not going to go really deep. We're just going to annex Moldavia eventually. Yeah, we took Wallachia from the Ottomans. pretty much basically of missions. So when you get to the mission to fight the Ottomans, you get a permanent claim on Bulgaria and then a temporary claim on everything that the Ottomans owns in the Carpathias and the Balkans. And your mission is to kick them out of here. That's why you'll see that we never went there, because the mission was over. So, and they were tamed, so they were not a threat anymore to me, and that's all that mattered. Hungary will stay there a long time because Austria is our ally in Hungary. They PU'd Hungary in 1455 by event, so we didn't go there eventually. Okay. So the Commonwealth is formed, then we're going to start going hard on Muscovy to kick them out of Russia for mission. It's going to be faster than I thought, because what they did, we didn't do this in this war, but once we get Moskva, we'll get Novgorod and Moskva at the same time. To take Moskva, it forced them to move their capital, and they just decided to go to the Ural themselves, which enabled the mission. But that's pretty much it. The rest will be tall play, really. We'll do Sweden, but much later. Because I wanted this border anyways. Viborg is in this state for some reason, so we're gonna get that eventually. At this point, the Russians have been broken. That's the name of the mission. We take Crimea just to finish the state. Eventually, we'll break on Austria. I figured that once Muscovy and the Ottomans are not a threat anymore, then I can lose Austria. I was using Austria a lot on the Ottomans. That's why I didn't want to break that. But we'll eventually do it just to get the mission done. So you'll see we'll take this eventually. Pretty sure I did that first. Might have done Sweden first, but no, I'm pretty sure I did Hungary first. Josip Brandenburg went a bit strong. He became emperor and decided to kick out Denmark. Nothing much to see here because it's mostly tall play, a lot of development. Yeah, okay, so we took here. This, don't pay attention to this. It's a bit of a glitch that they just keeping in, but in the time-lapse, Stockholm never changes color, but we own it right now. This is the mission, by the way. This is not part of the mission, but you probably want it because it's Daskogan. It's like a ×5 copper mine. It's pretty huge money, especially if you can state it. So we'll take this because of that, and we'll take Finland just to connect by land, so I don't have to use transports. Yeah, so yeah, okay, we did Sweden before Hungary, I didn't remember. So now we take the states. Well, we couldn't take everything we needed for the mission, so we took what we could. Mission is basically all of this plus... remember, there's one province, I think it's this one. And then all of... Okay, this is Aldov, these 4 provinces. So these 4 plus Bax is what we're missing for the mission. We're also going to take this, because since we're Serbia, this is in the Serbian state. The rest will stay there. Now, he's annexing this. Finally, it just took forever for them to do that, like Spain too. We're going to take Transylvania just because it's just weird. And the last thing we'll do is take this. I was starting a push towards Lubeck to move to Lubeck, but I figured I won't and just finish the run, because once I'm the top army in the world and I can't beat anybody, I don't see the point of keeping a run unless I'm doing a wall conquest or something. In this case, it wasn't the case, just to showcase the strategy. So 1659, this is when we stopped. So Sapmi, by the way, for those who don't know, I had nothing to do with it. Sapmi doesn't exist as a tag, but there's a culture, which is a Sapmi culture. A Sami culture, that they usually exist in those 3 provinces. And if they spawn, if the cultural rebel spawns and they siege a province, they end up creating cores for this tag. So it happened in Sweden, because Sweden was broken in 3 pieces, so they couldn't fight the rebels. Then it spawned in 1 province, and somehow they conquered the rest from Muscovy. That was pretty big. So I didn't do anything with them, I'm not allied or whatever. They're just there. So that's the time lapse, guys. We're just gonna quickly go on through ideas. So it's a tall run, right? So economic trade is the staple of a tall run. Economic because development cost reduction and then a bunch of money. Autonomy 2 helps, cheaper army, blah blah blah. Also, most of the policies that leads into money are here. And again, I'll reiterate that a tall run is not about development, although you'll get a lot of development because you're not going to expend a lot, so you're going to save points. You're going to get so much money that you're going to get good advisors, and yeah, developing also opens up slots for buildings, and that's the point. A tall run is about buildings. It's about building your buildings fast and as fast as possible, which leads into being able to fight wars to take money. If you want to do that, like right now, as the way tributes work in war, if you can fight the largest nations in terms of development that you can easily beat. You don't want to fight something too big that you're going to be spending money, a lot of money to fight, because then that defeats the point of taking their money. But you don't want to fight too small too, because the money you get in the tribute is based on the development. It's based on the loan size of a nation. The loan size of a nation is based on their development. So economic ideas, trade, because it's money. Also, again, it's basically the same idea as I explained in the Russian run. If you're going to trade a lot inland, either inland nodes or land nodes that goes inland, like Crimea, you'll get your trade power here based on your development downstream. So since we have high development and we're downstream from Crimea, then this is how you get this, replacing ships. This is a TLDR. If you want more details, I'll eventually make a video about trading inland like this and the importance of trade ideas. Because to get that, the reason trade ideas is important, two reasons. First of all, to get this, you need to have a merchant present. So in Astrakhan, I have no power here because I don't have a merchant. In Crimea, I do because I have a merchant. This value is a percentage, a tiny percentage of your development. So you can make the maths, 62.5 out of 2400. And then the 25% is because, again, trade. That's the second reason, is caravan power at the end. There's only a few sources of this. If you're a republic, you'll have more caravan power because you'll have plutocratic ideas. I can't show it, but there's caravan power and plutocratic ideas. It's even more if you're a merchant republic, because merchant republics have caravan power in their starting reform. Also, trade plus economic is production and a trade, which is even more money. And then usually you want quantity. And that's the change we did here. It's not the change that I'm saying you should do this change and never take quantity again. We're doing currently a tall run as Italy and we took quantity. The reason is, by the time we got our third idea, where we're not rich enough yet, we're making money like 20 ducats a month, but I usually don't take quantity if I can't afford the force limit that comes with it. It feels redundant to have force limit that you can't afford. So personally, I want quality. Better troops. Also with Poland, quality works well because, well, it makes your horses stronger, and as you can see, even by now, we're still using 8 horses per stack. This is special to Poland because of the 33% here. You can actually use it. Usually you don't use horses, there's very little at this point, but it works for Poland. It's special, but anyway, there's quality here, there's more discipline, so it works well. And also it can be a good substitute to quantity. Quantity will still be better because quantity will lead you to so if you have economic and trade, you're gonna get with trade 20% goods produced, which is freaking huge, and with economic, development cost reduction and land force limit modifier. So you'll get 60% land force limit because the 50% from quantity at the end plus the 10%. So as soon as you finish quantity, you get 60%, and then development cost reduction on top of economic. But yeah, a good substitute is quality. If you are afraid, because remember that the point of a tall run is to have money, is to build buildings. To build buildings, you need money. So even if you can afford quantity, but you're going to end up making barely any money, it's not really a good idea, because then you're just slowing down your ability to build buildings. Like, we still have a bunch of those, right? We built a few, so even at 450, where was it? 480, would probably be able to get another 150 easy with this. So I'll always say a tall run gets strong by Tech 8 if you're able to afford building camps. So early game, you build your temples, you build your workshops, you build some manufactories, the relevant marketplaces, upgrade your centers of trade. Well, I go through that, but basically I'll explain what I do in a tall build. You can get more details on the Twitch. I'll explain it live multiple times. But the basics of a tall run, the way I play it, and I'm known to be making a lot of money in my runs. The cycle is temples first until Tech 6, because Tech 6 is workshop. So, but until then you do churches. Only do those, as you can see, that is 0.1 plus. Then by Tech 6, so you do temples. By Tech 6, you're going to do workshops first. So all workshops by 0.1. If you still have money, still do your temples up to 0.1. Once this is done and you're saving a lot of money still, and you're at force limit, if you are already at force limit and still making a crap ton of money, at that point it will depend the order. If you are making a lot of money, and by a lot I mean in early game maybe 40, 50, there you have two options. If you want to play the long game, and it depends on your threats. So if you're surrounded by big threats and you want strength now, go ahead and build your camps. If you are making a good amount of profit, because then this will be force limit, which will eat into your profit. So you don't want, if you're making 5 ducats a month, you don't want to build this and then don't make any money by building it. And if you're not going to build the force limit, like build the troops that this force limit gives you access to, then there's no point building this, right? Also keep in mind it's going to take a slot, so it might push away some manufactories. So the idea is you have the number of slots left in these provinces, so don't only build them in the provinces that has a slot left, preferably where you have the full +1. Now these are just missing. I have no idea why this is doing this, because it's not a territory. But anyway, like you build those that has still more than one slot, because you want to keep a slot open for manufactories. If you are not, that's the first way. You have threats around you that could be dangerous or hard to fight, but also making a lot of money. Build the camps after these, because these are cheap, so you want to build those first. If you don't have any threats nearby, so you don't, like, you have the strongest army in your area, or you have kind of low profits already, go ahead with manufactories. That matters. Usually I build those that are 0.3 or more, because otherwise it's not effective. And then after that, go into camps. If all these are built, like workshops, temples, camps, manufactories, these in whatever order. Also, sorry, I skipped one. After the workshops and the temples, you still want to do the marketplaces. There are 5 more. Okay. Once this is done, you also want to do your centers of trade. Upgrade everything you can to tier 2. These are territories probably. And then the important one to tier 3. The important one will be your big provinces. Get tier 3 on top of giving you a lot more trade power. Will also reduce will give a building slot to the whole state and in every province in the state, but also reduce by 10% the development cost of these provinces. So you usually want to do it in provinces that are already big because of that, but also the trade power of the level 3 is going to add up to the province. So if the province is already big, producing, this is goods produced, so the trade power is going to multiply in terms of trade income the production of the province. So if you put a tier 3 in a small province, you're going to get less trade because the provinces are small, undeveloped. So you want to focus these on the big province. So like just the TLDR in order, assuming you have the tech, workshop, church, manufactories, or regimental camp, based on what you need, as I just explained. Then the other one, so if it was camps, then manufactories, or vice versa. And marketplaces 5+. You might do the marketplaces early because you're going to get the marketplaces at Tech 4 Diplo, so you're going to get this before these. So at Tech 4, all you'll have is temples and these. So once you're done with the temples, you probably want to do the marketplaces. Don't do those that are more than 5. They're not exactly efficient. They take a slot, and you might not have that many slots early game. Another thing too, this is if you are in end nodes only. If you are in an end node, like Venice, Genoa in the channel, and you own 100% of the node, you don't need to compete anymore. You can get 100% of the value with 1 point of power in the node, and you'll get the power from the land. So you can at that point remove all marketplaces, because marketplaces only give power. Power becomes useless if you control all the nodes. So at that point you can remove the markets and use those slots for something else. Yeah, so this is the order. At the same time as camps, for coastal node provinces, you want to do shipyards, and then you probably want to have some forts, but that's up to you depending on your borders and whatnot. Also, the upgrades don't take a new slot, so cathedrals, it's basically double the cost, right? Well, this one is triple, but I usually do cathedrals of 0.2 or more, assuming you have the money. These upgrades, so this, the counting houses, these don't take a new slot, it's just an upgrade from the old one, so you can do it whenever. Yeah, also do some barracks. The base barracks is always 1000 or more. These will be 2000 or more. That's what I do. You can change your values if you want. These upgrades too are worthwhile. I never do dry docks unless you have very few. This is only useful if you have very few coastal provinces and you don't have the sailors to maintain your fleet. Like I do right now, I'm making 102, I'm using 24. But if you have very few ports, because of the base force limit of 12 that everybody has, you won't have the sailors to support your fleet. So you might want to do dry docks that you'll delete eventually. So yeah, but the key to a tall run is to be able to build the camps. So you want to build your economy first. This is a Tech 8. By Tech 8, if you can save money to build camps, if you build them in every single province you have, you're basically going to double your force limit without even having quantity. So consider that it's a 100% force limit modifier. With a lot of money, granted, but without having to take quantity. So what quality does with economic and trade instead of quantity, it's going to give you, with economics, it's 5% discipline, and with trade, it's 20% trade efficiency. It's not as good as the 20% goods produced, but it's a good replacement. The big thing here is you don't have to build force limit here. So if you build the camps, you might not need the quantity thing. So yeah, and then with tank innovative, usually it's my fourth one in a super tall build, because innovative will save you points for technology, will make it cheaper to build the institutions, but on top of it, you're going to build innovativeness faster. Your advisors are costing less too, which means you can hire better advisors for more points. So you save points on tech, you make more points on advisors, and then innovativeness is going to start building up, which will reduce all power costs, which is also development costs. And then, well, at this point, we're just going for ideas for the end game. So offensive, deploy, all that. So this is the crux of it. This is the big difference here. Usually you take quantity, quality works too. It's going to be less money than it would quantity, but on the other end, you're not going to build the force limit from quantity, so your army is going to be cheaper. It depends on your threats around you. Take quantity if you have big threats, but by the time we got to that, we already had beaten down Muscovy and the Ottomans, so we were safe. That's going to be it for the video, guys. It's a bit long one, 40 minutes. Trying to keep them short, but had a lot to say here and explain. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. Also, if you want to watch me live, I'm on Twitch every day, about 12 to 16 hours. Of EU4, we're playing at super tall Italy right now, trying to get to 50 dev or something in every single province in Italy. If you want to see that, twitch.tv/callroot, the link is in the description below. Otherwise, we'll have a time lapse of it, obviously, once we're done, probably tomorrow. And yeah, leave a comment to see what you'd like to tell me what you'd like to see in the next run. Also, there's going to be a comparison of 3 Great Britain runs in a few days once I finish the third one. But I'll keep the details on that for when we are ready to show it to you. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Bye-bye.